This is the Shane Bro channel. Thank you for joining in. Talk about a few things. I've never ridden on a longboard before, so this ought to be very interesting. I did, however, used to skateboard, so this might be pretty similar. I don't know. A lot of turning involved, leaning, whatever, but not a lot of brakes. So it's gonna be a little weird, but hopefully you guys enjoy, and we can kind of talk about a few things, and talk about some mental health and kind of positive things. So stay tuned. Starting off. Let's go. Jeez, it's already sketchy. That was sketchy. That was I tried riding that longboard and it was super sketchy. I've ridden a skateboard and it's so much easier to stop on a skateboard, and longboards are terrifying, but I gave it a shot and it was it was pretty cool when I was cruising, but when I couldn't come to a stop and the board kind of just flew into people's yards, that's when I realized I probably should just call it a day and not wipe myself out. But I want to talk about a little bit of mental health, how to get your mind in a better place. It's kind of what I have been going through, so I feel like maybe I could share a little bit of my story or my fixes for kind of how I get through my hard times, and I'm going to therapy and stuff like that, so I'm definitely trying to actively fix my mind and myself, and every day you got to get better, and there's that is really the only choice that we have, I think, is to just get better, because if we get worse, going backwards, things aren't gonna progress. You're just going to be in the same state of mind or even worse. So if we're not feeding on being better from the last day to the next day, there's really no reinforcement for doing anything in life, really. So join me in a little bit of of what I can help you guys with. So my story, I won't tell you my full story because, I don't know, maybe, down the road I'll kind of fill you in fully with my story. But this year I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression. It's I don't know, it's kind of like a sensitive topic for some people, but I think in most cases everyone has got a little bit of anxiety or depression, or even both, or even so far worse mental health issues. I've always kind of had anxiety as a kid. I used to be scared of the wind. Like when the wind would blow, I used to be scared of tornadoes and stuff like that. I'd always want to be in a brick house just because of the wild weather in Colorado. It wasn't even really, it's not even really that bad compared to probably Oklahoma or Tornado City or Hurricane, Valley or whatever, but I was worried about it as a kid, and that's minor stuff, but there's always an anxiety, something that makes you anxious in a day, whether you know it or not. How we cope with that is the other thing. How we get through any kind of depression when our anxiety brings us down into it is another thing too. So my story is I just kind of got very depressed because I had lost somebody that I didn't really know that well through a suicide, and like that really hit me hard. Man, I probably a really difficult 5 6 months, um, where my heart like I could not calm down. My heart would beat like just constantly, like it just felt like a hard heartbeat. I couldn't really slow down and relax and do anything that I really wanted to do until I found building a bike. My idea of building a bike is not very new. The actual concept of finishing or actually having it tangible in my hands and actually doing the build, that was the key for me. You know, like the process of buying the parts, buying, you know, countless number of nights where I went to bed, I was looking at parts before I went to bed, and I questioned whether to buy them or not, whether it was price or whatever the case. You know, like I didn't want to spend the money just because I didn't want, you know, blow money on something that I didn't need. But this build helped me through my deep depression, and it you know, just bicycling too. In between that, that was my hobby, and I found something in there that helped my brain kind of develop better habits inside. And I think that if you guys find something, or if you maybe you've already found something, I don't know, but you guys can put a little bit of time in each week. Like I'm a busy guy, right? I probably only maybe get to ride my bike once a week, if that, maybe twice. That twice is like a good week. I get super busy, so if I get to ride my bike at all, I'm super stoked. I actually try to make it a plan to ride every single week. Obviously, being busy, it doesn't always happen, but I think you have to plan on it, because if you don't, then you'll never really get out of your depression and your anxious moments. And I think with biking is it's an exercise, right? So, and it's when you're going down a hill on a mountain bike, what else do you have to think about besides what's my line? How am I going to take it? How much fun I'm having? And, you know, you're reacting instead of proactive. Proactive is when you start thinking and you start being like, oh, that, and the other. And when you're reacting, you don't have time to necessarily think. You have to just do. And I think that is kind of, if you have whatever 45 minutes or an hour where you just get to not think about other things other than your ride, like I think that's what's helped me so much. And it's an awesome feeling after you get done with your ride, because like obviously you exercised, and then you have this big rush of adrenaline, and then you have this euphoria afterwards that like, oh man, that was like awesome, I got to do that again. And that's where like the bug starts biting you. And I think that if you guys could find whatever bug that bites you, to not think about anything else but what you're doing for a short amount of time, it can help you so much in life. So much. And it, you know, like it doesn't have to be anything big like mountain biking, but it can be, or like motocross. I love motocross too. So that is also a reactive sport. Like you have to constantly be on your toes, and you have to constantly do something to get out of a scenario, or you're moving your body, you have to constantly just react. And so I think for sure, one is to find a hobby. Two is to find a hobby that you like. Some people find hobbies that they don't necessarily like, but they just want to get something, they just want to get into something just to get into it. And, sometimes you do have to try a hobby out to figure out that if you do like it or not. But I think that, I don't know, at this point in my age, anyways, being 25 years old, if anybody is my age or a little bit older or younger, they might already have an idea of like what makes them tick. Whether it's going to the gym and getting fit and working on their body and trying to get, whether bodybuilding or whatever the case, that is the second one. Find something that you do like. If you don't like it, then it's not going to work for you. The third one is stick with it. If you're not going to stick with it, it's not going to help you long term. And sticking with it, like I was saying, like it doesn't necessarily have to be every single day or every single, like you can space it out however you need it, but you need to have it kind of in a regularity form so that you can build off of it. You want to like progress through what you're doing. You don't want to just stay stagnant. And whether it's like let's say painting, like if you just started off painting and you've always kind of like wanted to be artsy and stuff like that, like you gotta work at it, right, to get better and better and better and better. So if you're not working at it, you're not going to progress. So that's the third one. And fourth is to find the balance of, like, if you don't necessarily always have the time for it, you have to find an appropriate amount of time to complete a daily session. Part 2 is next. Bros and bras, thank you for tuning in and checking out my video. I know it's a little bit cheesy and it's information that kind of all of us know, but I just want to share my story and see if it can help anybody out there in the world. So join in for part 2. Like and subscribe.